The mansion rises like a silent giant over the city, its walls gleaming under the moonlight. Every window glows softly, hinting at wealth, secrets, and power. A gentle mist clings to the manicured gardens, swirling around statues and fountains. From somewhere deep within, a presence watches, unseen and commanding. The maid steps onto the stone path, her footsteps soft against the cool night air. She carries a quiet determination, invisible to the world yet alive with purpose. Moonlight kisses her silhouette, tracing the gentle sway of her hair and the outline of her uniform. Inside, Alpha stands alone, overlooking the city like a king surveying his kingdom. The glass walls reflect the distant lights, but none shine brighter than the silent storm in his posture. His shoulders are broad, his stance unwavering, yet in the shadows of his office, secrets whisper and pride weighs heavy. The maid sweeps silently down the endless marble corridor. Each stroke of her broom seems to echo softly against the high ceiling. Chandeliers cast golden shards of light, bouncing off the polished floor, dancing like tiny stars. She moves with care, knowing her place is unnoticed but essential. A tray wobbles, tea spills across the floor in slow motion, dark liquid pooling against the pristine marble. The maid freezes, heart racing. From the shadows, a presence watches cold, calculating. She bows instinctively, her pulse loud in her ears. Pride meets discipline in a silent, unspoken confrontation. The ballroom doors swing open. Elegant women in shimmering gowns glide across the polished floor, their laughter echoing softly. The maid stands at the edge, unnoticed, observing the spectacle. Alpha's attention lingers somewhere else, the quiet pull between them stronger than ever, though unacknowledged. She senses it before she sees it. A glance, fleeting but unmistakable. Alpha's eyes find hers, a spark of curiosity hidden beneath layers of pride. She looks away, heart quickened, feeling the weight of unspoken words in a room full of chatter. Outside, shadows stir. A rival Alpha watches from afar, eyes glowing faintly red, plotting intrusion. The mansion seems oblivious, yet the tension prickles in the night air, unseen but deeply felt by those attuned. A sudden motion, a whisper of danger. Without thinking, the maid steps forward, shielding Alpha as shadows twist around them. Moonlight slices through the windows, revealing courage where fear once lived. Pride meets destiny in the silent gesture. For the first time, Alpha falters. Shock etches his silhouette, pride cracked by courage he did not expect. He stands still, letting the realization settle. Perhaps some bonds cannot be ignored, no matter the walls built around them. Silence follows the disturbance. The mansion exhales slowly, as though holding its breath had become instinct. Servants whisper behind closed doors. The maid stands still, her hands trembling slightly, while Alpha regains his composure. No one speaks of what almost happened, yet everyone feels it lingering in the walls. Alone in his chamber, Alpha loosens his collar, pacing like a caged predator. He replays the moment again and again. How she stepped forward without hesitation. No one had ever done that for him. Not wealth, not power, not the countless women who admired him from afar. In the servants' quarters, the maid sits on the edge of her narrow bed. The room is simple, plain walls, folded uniforms, silence. She presses a hand to her chest, feeling a strange warmth beneath her skin. Something ancient stirs inside her, something she does not yet understand. Somewhere deep within the mansion, Alpha pauses. A sudden pull grips his chest, sharp, undeniable. He looks toward the servant's wing, confused and unsettled. This was not weakness. This was something else, something older than pride. Morning arrives as if nothing changed. The maid resumes her duties, polishing silver, arranging flowers, bowing her head when Alpha passes. Yet the air between them is heavier now, charged with unspoken awareness. Every glance lasts a second too long. Alpha makes a decision. He keeps his distance. He surrounds himself with guests' laughter and noise, anything to drown out the pull. Pride demands control. Desire threatens it. The maid notices the change immediately. The avoidance, the cold politeness. She tells herself it does not matter, that she knows her place. Still, the warmth in her chest dulls into a quiet ache. A noblewoman arrives elegant, confident, used to being chosen. She laughs easily beside Alpha, her hand brushing his arm. From across the room, the maid watches, her expression unreadable, her heart painfully aware. Alpha smiles, but the gesture feels hollow. No matter how close the noblewoman stands, the pull does not fade. His gaze betrays him, always drifting to the one person he claims to ignore. When the maid accidentally drops a glass, it shatters loudly. Conversations stop. Alpha turns instantly, instinct overriding pride. In that moment, the truth becomes undeniable to him and to everyone watching. With a single gesture, Alpha dismisses the room. Guests leave confused, whispers trailing behind them. The doors close. Silence claims the space once more. They stand several steps apart. No words are spoken. None are needed. The bond hums between them, visible now as a faint golden shimmer, pulsing with every heartbeat. Alpha turns away first. Pride still rules him for now. But destiny is patient. It waits. That night, neither sleeps. Moonlight paints the mansion silver as two souls lie awake, bound by something neither asked for, yet neither can escape. Somewhere beyond the gates, red eyes open in the darkness. The rival Alpha smiles. The game has only just begun. Morning creeps in quietly, painting the mansion in pale gold. The night's tension fades into silence, but nothing is truly resolved. Destiny does not disappear with sunlight. The mansion wakes slowly. Footsteps echo. Doors open and close. Life resumes, unaware that something powerful has shifted beneath its polished surface. From across the hall, the maid watches Alpha descend the stairs. His presence still commands the room. Yet now, something unseen pulls at her chest whenever he draws near. Alpha pauses mid-step. He does not turn, but he knows. The pull is there again, stronger, demanding recognition. He forces himself forward. Control is everything, yet every step away feels like betrayal not of her, but of himself. Alone in his office, the maid dusts carefully. The room smells of power and restraint. She senses his presence even when he is gone. The air hums faintly. Glass trembles. Light flickers. The maid freezes, breath caught, unsure if she imagined it. Somewhere else in the mansion, Alpha stops abruptly. His instincts flare. Something has awakened. They almost collide in the hallway. Time stretches. Breath stills. Neither bows. Neither steps back. His voice is calm, controlled. Be careful. It is the most he has ever said to her. She stands frozen long after he leaves. Her heart races. Words replay endlessly in her mind. The noblewoman notices the shift. Alpha's distraction. His distance. Jealousy sharpens her gaze. She approaches the maid later, her smile thin, her words polite but edged with warning. The maid lowers her head but not her spirit. Something inside her refuses to shrink anymore. Alpha watches everything. His jaw tightens. The bond pulses painfully now. Darkness returns, heavier than before. The mansion feels alert, like a creature waiting to strike. In the forest beyond the gates, footsteps echo. Red eyes glow brighter. Alpha feels it instantly. Threat, danger. His control fractures. Orders are given. Security tightens. No explanations offered. The maid senses eyes in the darkness. Her pulse quickens. He appears without warning, silent, protective. He does not touch her. He does not speak. He simply stands between her and the dark. The golden aura flares brief, undeniable. Destiny no longer whispers, it roars. Pride trembles. Control shatters. Alpha knows the truth now. As the rival Alpha smiles in the darkness, one truth becomes clear. The maid was never weak. She was chosen. And somewhere beyond the estate, red eyes gleamed brighter, eager for what was to come. The night did not pass quietly. Beyond the mansion's iron gates, something moved with purpose. Leaves crunched softly beneath careful steps. The forest, usually alive with sound, fell Red eyes watched the estate from the darkness. Inside, Alpha stood awake at the edge of his balcony, fists resting against the cold glass railing. The city lights stretched endlessly below him, but his focus remained fixed on the grounds beneath. The golden flare from earlier still burned in his mind, impossible to forget. For the first time in years, control felt fragile. Across the mansion, the maid lay awake in her narrow bed, staring at the ceiling. Her heart refused to settle. Every time she closed her eyes, she felt it again, that warmth, that pull, that invisible thread tightening around her chest. She did not know its name. She only knew it felt inevitable. Morning arrived with tension clinging stubbornly to the walls. Servants moved more cautiously than usual. Conversations stayed hushed. Even the air itself felt alert, as though the mansion were holding its breath. Alpha descended the stairs with a command that needed no words. Guards straightened instantly. Orders were issued calmly, efficiently. Extra patrols, locked gates, no explanations given. The maid noticed everything. She watched from the edges as Alpha moved through the halls, his presence heavier than before. When their eyes met, neither looked away this time. The bond pulsed quiet, insistent, unwelcome, undeniable. Later that afternoon, a visitor arrived unannounced. The vampire moved with unsettling grace, cloaked in elegance and shadow. His presence cooled the air, his pale gaze sharp and knowing. Alpha received him privately, though irritation simmered beneath his composed exterior. "You feel it too," the vampire said calmly, voice smooth as polished stone. Alpha's jaw tightened. "Careful," the vampire continued. "Fate does not like being ignored." The warning lingered long after the visitor departed. That evening, tension reached its breaking point. The rival Alpha crossed the perimeter. It happened swiftly. Guards fell without a sound. Shadows twisted unnaturally along the outer walls. The mansion's alarms never rang. Magic smothered them before they could scream. The maid sensed danger before anyone else. Her chest burned sharply, heat spreading through her veins like wildfire. She staggered, gripping the edge of a table, breath coming fast. Fear followed, but beneath it, something stronger rose. Certainty. Alpha felt it instantly. He moved without hesitation, instincts overriding every rule he had ever lived by. He found her in the corridor, shaken but standing. When shadows surged from the darkness, Alpha stepped forward, placing himself in front of her without a thought. Power exploded outward. The rival Alpha emerged at last, smiling coldly as moonlight revealed his form, taller, leaner. His eyes glowed red with hunger and amusement. "So this is her," the rival said softly. "Your weakness." Alpha did not answer. The maid stood frozen behind him, heart racing as the golden aura flared brighter than ever before. The walls trembled, the air cracked with energy. "She is not my weakness," Alpha said at last, voice low and dangerous. "She is my bond." The rival laughed. The clash was brief but violent. Power met power, shaking the estate to its foundations. Servants fled, glass shattered, shadows screamed, and in the center of it all, the maid stood untouched. Something inside her awakened fully. Golden light surged from her, raw and brilliant, forcing both Alphas back. The rival stumbled, shock flashing across his face as he realized the truth far too late. "She's awakened," he whispered. Fear replaced amusement. The rival retreated into the darkness, wounded but not defeated. His laughter echoed faintly as he vanished beyond the gates. Silence fell heavily over the mansion. Alpha turned slowly toward the maid. She stood trembling, light fading gradually from her skin. Confusion and fear whirred across her expression as she looked at him, waiting for judgment, for rejection. Alpha took a step closer, then another. "I knew," he said quietly. "From the beginning." Her breath hitched. "But I did not want you," he continued, honesty cutting deeper than cruelty ever could. You did not fit the world I built. The words hurt, but they were not the end. And yet, Alpha added, voice lowering, every instinct I have says you were never meant to. The bond pulls gently now, no longer violent, only certain. The noblewoman watched from a distance, realization dawning painfully across her face. There would be no place for her here. Not anymore. That night, Alpha gave orders that changed everything. The maid was moved from the servants' quarters not as a mistress, not as a prize, but as something far more dangerous, a protected bond. Whispers spread quickly, disbelief, resentment, fear. The maid felt all of it. She stood on the balcony beside Alpha later, the city stretching endlessly before them, the distance between rich and poor, power and silence, seemed smaller now but not gone. This does not make things easier, Alpha said. I know, she replied softly. The honesty between them felt heavier than promises. Beyond the mansion, red eyes opened once more, angrier now, calculating. The rival Alpha had not lost. He had learned, and the war for the bond had only begun. The silence after the rival Alpha's retreat did not bring peace. It brought certainty. The mansion stood wounded but unbroken, its walls bearing the scars of power unleashed within them. Guards moved quietly through shattered corridors. Servants whispered prayers they barely understood. And at the center of it all stood Alpha, staring out into the night, knowing the truth he could no longer deny. War was coming. The maid felt it too. Since the awakening, nothing felt the same. Her senses were sharper. The world felt louder, brighter, heavier. She could feel Alpha even when he was not near, his presence like a steady pull in her chest, grounding and overwhelming all at once. She was no longer invisible, and that terrified her. The days that followed were tense and restless. Alpha tightened security, summoned allies, and prepared his territory for conflict. Yet no matter how occupied he became, his attention always returned to her, not as a servant, not as a possession, but as a bond he could no longer ignore. Whispers spread quickly through the elite circles, a maid chosen by fate, a bond that defied status. Some scoffed, others feared it, many resented it. The noblewoman left quietly, her pride wounded beyond repair. The vampire returned once more, his expression unreadable as he studied the maid with new respect. She will change everything, he said simply. Alpha did not disagree. The rival Alpha did not waste time. He gathered his forces beyond the borders, twisting loyalty with promises of power. He painted Alpha as weak, compromised, ruled by emotion. He spoke of the bond as a flaw, a crack in an otherwise perfect ruler, and many listened. The first attack came at dawn. The sky burned red as forces clashed beyond the estate. Alpha led from the front, power roaring through him as he defended what was his. The battle was brutal, relentless, unforgiving. Inside the mansion, the maid stood surrounded by guards, heart pounding violently. She knew she was not meant to hide. When the rival Alpha breached the inner gates, she felt it like a blade through her chest. Alpha was wounded, not broken but bleeding. Without hesitation, she ran. She reached the courtyard as chaos erupted around her. Alpha stood across from his rival, breathing hard, blood dark against his skin. The rival smiled, certain victory was near. Then the maid stepped forward. The world seemed to pause. Move, Alpha commanded sharply, fear edging his voice for the first time. She did not. I won't, she said quietly. The ground trembled. Golden light poured from her, no longer wild, no longer uncontrolled. It wrapped around Alpha, strengthening him, steadying his breath. For the first time, the bond did not feel like a burden. It felt like unity. The rival Alpha attacked. Together, they met him. Power collided violently, shaking the sky itself. But the rival had underestimated the bond. This was not dominance. This was balance. The final blow came not from strength alone, but from connection. The rival Alpha fell, defeated not by power, but by what he lacked. The war ended as suddenly as it began. Silence reclaimed the land. Alpha stood in the aftermath, chest rising slowly, staring at the one person who had changed everything. The maid stood before him, light fading gently from her skin, exhaustion weighing her down. He caught her before she fell. For the first time, Alpha did not hesitate. He held her openly. There were no cheers, no declarations, only truth. The days that followed reshaped the world quietly. Alpha ruled differently now, not weaker, wiser. The divide between rich and poor did not vanish overnight, but it cracked. Voices once ignored were heard. Power became responsibility instead of entitlement. The maid no longer wore a uniform. She did not sit on a throne either. She stood beside Alpha, equal in bond if not in title. Her presence a reminder that worth was never defined by status. Some resisted the change, but destiny had already chosen. One evening, as the sun dipped below the horizon, Alpha and the maid stood together on the balcony where everything had begun. I fought it, Alpha admitted softly, because I was afraid of what you would cost me. She looked up at him calmly. And what did I give you instead? She asked. He answered without hesitation. Everything I never knew I was missing. The city lights shimmered below them. The world continued on, imperfect but alive. The divide had not disappeared, but it had been bridged. And in that quiet moment, bound not by power but by choice, Alpha and the maid stood together not as ruler and servant, not as rich and poor, but as equals.
This story was not just about power, wealth, or fate. It is about what happens when people are judged by where they stand instead of who they are. The greatest divides in the world are not created by strength or status, but by fear, pride, and the refusal to see worth in the unseen. And sometimes, the ones we overlook are the very ones capable of changing everything. Because true power is not found in dominance, but in the courage to choose differently. Every world has an elite. Every elite creates a divide. This is elite divide, that where power is tested and choices reveal who we truly are.